Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to change the brake pads on the rear calipers of a car that's equipped with disc brakes at the rear. The vast majority of cars are very similar in this respect, and the process will be almost identical to what I'm going to show you on this Saab. Now obviously the first thing you need to do is to raise the car and support it firmly on axle stands. Please don't work on a car without the wheels on, and I'll only support it on a jack. First step, not all cars have these, but some cars have springs between the carrier and the caliper, and that will need to come off. You will need, in a short while, to be able to open the bleed nipple. So I would suggest using a socket whilst it's still all together and firm. Use a socket just to break the seal and then tighten it back up. Now we need to separate the caliper from the carrier, and we do that by undoing the slide bolts. Remove the dust cap if there is one using an appropriate tool. This particular car uses a 7mm Allen key bolt. Undo top and the bottom. I'll put a link in the description to that, or you could use your ratchet. On some cars you only need to undo the bottom slide pin and the caliper will hinge out on the upper, but on other cars like this you need to undo both caliper pins and then the caliper slides off like so. The brake pads can then be removed, and as you can see, that's down to its minimum, 3mm. Brush any loose dust and dirt away. At this point, use the correct size ring spanner fitted to the bleed nipple, positioned in such a way that you can open it a quarter of a turn at least. A short piece of hose or tubing to the bleed nipple down into a container, and a brake hose clamp onto the brake hose. If your caliper is the sort with a handbrake that operates directly on the caliper, then like with this one, you will need to wind the piston back in. Do not just push it in with a G-cramp or anything like that. It does need to be wound in with a proper tool. Fit up your wind back tool to the caliper and the piston. Tighten the boss by hand. It's definitely worth having access. Different cars wind the pistons in a different way. Some go in clockwise and some go in anti-clockwise. This particular car, Saab 9-3, its Vectra C and Signum equivalents wind clockwise. Open the bleed nipple, quarter to half a turn. As we wind the piston in, excess fluid will be pushed out of the tube and into our container. You should not wind the piston in and force the used fluid that's in here backwards up the circuit. It's not as critical these days as it used to be, but many years ago ABS systems did not used to like it if you push the fluid backwards through the system. Now use a pair of pipe grips, or if you've got the correct size spanner, a spanner to hold the wind back tool boss, and wind the piston in the correct way. Now as you can see, as I'm winding this one back in, it's forcing the fluid out of this pipe. Wind your piston all the way back in, but don't attempt to wind it back out. Now close your bleed nipple, and you can remove your tube and your brake pipe clamp. You must remember to remove your brake pipe clamp, because of course if you don't, then that brake won't work. When you press on the brake pedal, the pressure won't get through and that brake won't work. Remove your wind back tool, not by unwinding the handle, but by screwing the boss a little way back in to release it from the piston and the caliper body. Now is also a perfect time to check the thickness of your discs. You can find out the minimum thickness of your discs by consulting an online brake catalogue. The Mintex brake catalogue is a very good one for that. Assume that the minimum thickness is 2mm less than the new thickness, which is 1mm of wear on each side. The best way to measure the thickness is with a micrometer. When you're putting new pads on, make sure that there's at least 0.5mm of wear on each side available for the new pads. Now the pads run in the caliper. As they go, they need to be able to slide in and out freely. So give the carrier a good clean with a wire brush on both sides. Stage before we put it back together, before we put the pads in, I'd recommend pulling the carrier pins out. Make sure there's no corrosion or pitting or scoring on them, and if they're a bit dirty like this, give them a clean. You can use a round nylon brush to clean through the rubber adapter where the slide pin goes. Don't be tempted to use a brass or steel brush. Apply a little molybdenum loaded grease and onto the slide pin, and then put the pin back in, and do that with both pins. If of course there's any doubt over the condition of the pin, then replace the pins. One brake pad has a spring and the other does not. Place your pads into the carrier. Don't lubricate the carrier where the backing plates slide. There's always a danger of any grease getting onto the disc surface itself, and also the dust that's created from braking and of course road dirt mixes with the grease and forms a paste, and that can cause the pads to stick, and that's when you then start to get uneven wear. Slide the caliper over the pads and screw your caliper pins back into the caliper carrier. Remember of course that when you're pushing the caliper into position, you're pushing it against that spring pressure of the pad that's got the spring on it. If you've got a torque figure and you've got a suitable torque wrench, you can torque them up, but otherwise do your caliper pins hand tight with a moderate length tool. Caliper should slide freely on the pins. Put your spring back into place. These springs really should be replaced every time you replace the pads. The only reason I haven't on this occasion is because the store that I bought my new pads from didn't have them in stock. And there you go, job to good 'un. Double check that you've done your bleed nipple up, and then go and pump your brake pedal. And the final step, once you've done both sides and you've pumped your pedal back into position, make sure that your brake fluid is up to the max mark, because as the brake pads wear and the pistons come back out of the calipers with the worn pads, the fluid goes down.